Okay, thank you. Good evening, everyone. Tonight we switch back to the instructional talks based on Master YongHua's Chan Qi instructions. Thank you all for coming and joining us. Okay, thank you. Good evening, everyone. Tonight we switch back to the instructional talks based on Master YongHua's Chan Qi instructions. Thank you all for coming and joining us. Okay, thank you. Good evening, everyone. Tonight we switch back to the instruction. Now I could use a sound back. Okay, very good. We just fixed. Tonight we have a little personnel switch. You don't realize how much work is involved in putting all this together. Typically, we are patching up a lot of stuff ourselves, being low budget and so forth. But it's amazing how much technology is involved in doing the intertemple and the audio videos and stuff like that. So thank you for all the hard work. It's a lot more work involved than you realize. It's quite so it's always things that we need to adapt and adjust every single time. And in particular, during the cheese here, you are shielded from a lot of stuff that's going on behind the scenes. There's a lot of disruptions. There's lots of troublemaking and stuff. So at the same time, you also need to keep up, as per our commitment to all of you. Keep up with our work, ongoing support of all of you anyway. So COVID-19 and, last night you heard how, they entered Xian Shun's. That's all in a day's work. There's nothing new for us. Okay, but let's continue. So last Thursday, we left off at Master YongHua's talking about the Gung Te Kai, the Master Gung Te Kai, and I remember vaguely that he died and they cremated him, and there's some auspicious signs where, like the fire manifested a form of a dragon of smoke and fire, that burst into empty space. The flames turned to the shape of lotus flowers. So people would reinforce the faith at the time, especially for something new like Chinese Indian Mahayana in China. So they had to have some auspicious portents, some miracles, if you will. And furthermore, Master Gung Te Kai also translated a lot of sutras, and they were studied by a lot of people who believe in his work. In fact, actually, I don't know about you, but when I listen about these stories, and I sort of like, furthermore, so Master YongHua says, Gung Te Kai, Master Gung Te Kai, created great merit and virtues of Buddhism, helping propagate Buddhism from India to China. And we talk about his life and his work. his virtues, so that we can learn from his good stuff and as well as bad stuff. And so that's what we try to do as the early monks and nuns. They need to set a precedent, and they need to set a standard. Like Master Shinhwa sets such a high standards as a patriarch of Mahayana that helped transfer Mahayana from China to the U.S. So he had to have very, very important for him to set a very, very high standards, okay? Which is quite different from the time when Buddhism was transferred from India to China. They sent Master Bodhidharma. You all heard of him. I have his story. And Bodhidharma back then was faced with different circumstances. And his work was a lot, in my mind, was a lot less demanding as Master Shinhwa's, to be honest with you. Because compared to Master Shinhwa's work, Great Master Bodhidharma simply taught a handful of people. That's the main thing. And in particular, he transmitted the mind-to-mind Dharma to Huike, the second Chinese patriarch. That's the main thing. So it's the first time he transferred the mind-to-mind transmission of the Dharma, of the Chan Dharma, to Huike, Great Master Huike. And its significance is that Master Huike is very, very high, so you can realize that you understand the importance that the Mahayana, compared to, for example, Master Shinhwa versus Master Bodhidharma, is that Mahayana was transferred into Huike, okay, in his wisdom. Whereas Master Shinhwa's transmission of the Dharma was more into creating the foundation, okay, and explaining sutras and transmitted the cultivation methods. You see, there are different times, different requirements, because nowadays Master Shinhwa has a lot more disciples, a bigger network waiting for him to get started. Whereas Master Bodhidharma at the time had no support, no structure, okay, no audio-video team and stuff like that, and therefore the main thing for him is to transfer the essence of the Dharma to Huike, and Huike will develop it later. Okay, they have to bide their time, and so. So that's what why we learn about these eminent monks. We look at what they're doing, why they're doing it, so that we try to understand the appropriate course of action. And he says, now the Dharma has been transmitted to us, especially to America, to the U.S. Don't be lazy. In particular, especially here in our times, we are overworked, we're stressed out, we have a lot of mental issues, a lot more than the ordinary people of the world are prepared to face. They are so preoccupied with the COVID-19, the inflation, and the war and so forth, and so it's already overwhelming for us. Europe now, for example, is suffering from high prices and as well as lack of heat. Gas is so expensive over there because of the Russian and Ukraine war. And so you see, the world has so many problems, so many issues that's already overwhelming. So there's no point. There's no point talking about these severe many mental issues that are plaguing the majority of mankind. When I first started 16, 17 years ago, I didn't realize how rampant these mental illnesses are. Because I myself was mentally sick, so so I thought, well, maybe it's just me, my issues. But it turns out, over time, I ran into more and more problems from all walks of life. Rich people, poor people, educated people, uneducated people, white faces, yellow faces, black faces. They all have a lot of mental issues. And so life is overwhelming, and then all these issues are so overwhelming themselves. Okay, and so naturally, rest is on our mind. We say after a week's work, why do we need to go to the temple? We should rest. So what we're doing is actually cultivation is exact opposite. You come here during these teas here, and you just remember you're doing something that's goes against the flow, goes against the common prevailing wisdom of ordinary people. Okay, and so you need to not be afraid to get tired, and when you're tired, don't rest. Continue, keep up with the program, keep up with the schedule. Okay, don't make excuses. Say, no one is doing anything, so what I should do? If I don't, I sit one less session, it's still a lot more than the rest of the people. No, it's about you. Cultivation is about you. Don't find excuses to chicken out, to take it easy. Don't be lazy. Okay? Don't think that rest is beneficial. You must be diligent and vigorous. Okay? And he'll explain more. Because never lose sight of this big issue here that we all have to face, the issue of birth and death. Okay? This is what makes you different, makes you superior, because you choose to solve the problems that are more important to the world. We're doing this not because you run away from our responsibilities. You're doing this to cultivate in order to end our birth and death sooner, so that we can really help others. Until you end your own birth and death, you can't really help others. You're so confused. Even after these people who ended birth and death, they're still confused. Let me tell you, I used to be so impressed by these Chinese teaching. They said, become an arhat and you end birth and death, and you become a sage and you can save the world. I said, wow, so wonderful. I'd like to be an arhat myself. I said, it's such a worthwhile endeavor. And then I taught a lot of people to become fourth-stage arhats, and I realized how stupid those fourth-stage arhats are. Either I'm so stupid and so crazy to recognize a fourth-stage arhat, or maybe the fourth-stage arhats are really, really stupid. And they are. But the difference between them and you is that when the people who have ended birth and death are taught, they understand. But when you're taught and you're not a fourth stage arahat, you're lower, you don't understand at all. That's the difference. Unfortunately, the sutras make it look like, you become an arahat and you have no more studies. They call it wu xue. Huh? I find it to be so misleading to think that you're wu xue. A fourth stage arahat has so much to learn. I don't know about you, but for example, I look at my own teachers teaching things. He's Chinese, so he taught. His teaching is geared towards the Chinese culture. So it doesn't quite connect with American culture, the Western culture, because he doesn't know. He look at them. It's basically Asians. Not just Asians. This is one group of Asians. Either you have the Taiwanese at CCTV, okay, who will oppress the Vietnamese there, okay, because we outnumber you, we give more money, or you have some Caucasian disciples there that the Taiwanese don't trust. So it's because they're not prepared. I feel that in your generation, for example, now that we're bringing you to levels of wisdom and bring you to develop your understanding, your wisdom, now you also have to be sensitive to cultures. Because what is the point of Mahayana here training an Asian person, a Chinese person, and then ending up with only helping Chinese people because they can't relate to other cultures? So that's why I look at that and I said, after you become a fourth stage arahat or even higher, in order to help others, you have to learn about cultures, you learn about the ways of the world. We isolate ourselves from the world, we distance ourselves from the world for now in order to open our wisdom. Okay? But it's not because we want to run away, because we want to come back and save others. Okay? So I feel that what I call American Mahayana is different from Chinese Mahayana, because Chinese Mahayana is Chinese. Okay, it really serves the Asians very, very well. But we're not in Asia anymore. We need to be more cultural, more cosmopolitan, more suitable for the modern times and the challenges of this Dharma ending age. And Master YongHua says further on slide 73, he says, when you practice the Chan Qi here, you will increase your patience. Cultivation, the basis of a Chan cultivation is to endure, and therefore it builds up your patience. Okay? In order for you to improve, you need to endure more. That's being patient. And as you improve, your patience will increase naturally. Okay, and this is what's the sad thing about most cultivators. They quit too soon. They say, hey, this is too difficult. Okay, and therefore I said, no, this is unreasonable, this is too much. And that's precisely the Dharma of patience. It's supposed to be unreasonable. All right? And he says, so we start with patience, then you also will be able to cultivate the other 5 paramitas. So you see, when we teach you Chan, It's actually, we're teaching you to practice the 5 paramitas as well. That's what he's saying. He wasn't quite able to tell his disciples back then, this pale faces, wouldn't understand. Why I talk about paramita, I can hardly sit in full lotus. But he says, Chan is the 6 paramitas, believe it or not. It's not just samadhi, it's not just patience, it's all 6 paramitas. This is our Chan. Okay, our lineage, our Wei-Yang lineage is the 6 paramitas. We train you on the 6 paramitas. I'm not interested alone, let me tell you, on developing your samadhi. That's not enough for me. All 6 paramitas. Go ahead, Kong. Ask your question.
한국어 유튜브에 올라온 강민성님 질문입니다. 생사를 마친 아라한을 말씀하시는 게 4번째 단계의 아라한을 말씀하시는 건가요?
Master, you said here about birth and death, the one who overcome the birth and death. Is that the one 4-stage arhat?
Yes. 네. That's it? Yes. Once the first stage of ending birth and death is a 4-stage arhat, and then after that you go a lot higher. Okay, we are more interested on bringing you to first ground. Okay, that is called enlightenment for us. My interest is populate the world with at least first ground people. 15 years ago, I started by saying, I want you to get a first stage arhat. Keep that in mind. Please. If you want to be my disciples, don't be like the Chinese. Get the first stage arhat. Okay? We're different. Okay? We're better. And because it's only when you get the first stage arhat, then you know you are really, really special. You're no ordinary person, let me tell you. Yes, all you first stage arhats, okay, and those who are near first stage arhats, okay. But now there's so many of you who bought into it. I'm telling you, the real deal is that you lay people should get to 4th stage arhats, and left form people should get to first ground bodhisattva. Why? Because we are American Mahayana. We have our standards. We prove ourselves that yes, we can handle the Chinese standards. Now we set our own standards. Okay? And you see, I feel that our whatever we call American Mahayana is much more well-rounded. As I said, I keep on telling you, even the last few years, that we teach you the 6 paramitas. It's not just Chan, it's not just the Samadhi paramita or the patience paramita. It's not enough. Because if you stick to, like most teachers in Hinayana, I teach you meditation, I teach you tantras, I teach you reciting Buddha's name, okay? The training is not complete. That's why their disciples have a hard time getting there. In order to get there, you need to practice all 6 paramitas. Shh, don't tell them. Don't tell the Chinese, okay? They think they know it all. Yes, pale face.
Thank you, Master. YouTube question from Ray Huang.
Yes.
What is a paramita?
You see? Paramita is called perfection. It's Sanskrit. It's from Sanskrit. And which means perfection. These are things you want to perfect. Because you perfect them, perfection, paramita means to arrive at the other shore. You perfect these things, you will end birth and death. You become enlightened. Okay? And that's the essence of the Mahayana practice. All the Dharma doors in Mahayana. I don't care what you do, reciting Buddha's name. You study precepts in precept school. I did that as well. You lecture on sutras. You sit in meditation like we do here. Or you, what else is there? You practice patience, and so forth. All those practices that everyone is doing, everyone who claims that I am a Pure Land person, I'm a Chan person, I'm a secret school person, I'm a Vinaya school person, and so forth, okay? All those, okay, are all those in order for you to get to the highest level of achievement in those schools, you need to practice the 6 paramitas. Okay? For example, to be precise, in a Chan school, because we are in the midst of a Chan Chi here, we are primarily practicing the Samadhi paramita, meaning that when we go to these Chan things, these sits here, is in order for you to enter Samadhi. Okay? So in order to enter Samadhi, there are many, many ways to do that. The Hinayana teaches you about mindfulness, teach you about breath counting, teach you about 4 stations of mindfulness, it teach you about metta, contemplation, all those things, contemplation, the impure, and so forth. Okay? All those are different methods in order to help you enter Samadhi. Okay, and because of that training, the Samadhi paramita means that you are able to enter Samadhi at will. You perfected that practice. Is it clear? Okay, whether you're in Korea or most people in Korea, many people in Korea, they practice the Hwato and so forth. That's a methodology only in order to help them enter the Samadhi of enlightenment. And once they enter the Samadhi of enlightenment, it's not quite the Samadhi paramita yet. Because I met many Sunims over there, and I know. I met a 6th ground level. I look at that, and that person, I said, you haven't perfected the Samadhi paramita yet, because you don't know how to enter the Samadhi paramita at will yet. When you do that, the paramita, the Samadhi paramita means that you perfected the ability to enter the Samadhi at will. They don't talk about it because they can't. Chinese don't talk about it. Koreans don't talk about it. Because then a disciple would ask, how do I do that? So what do? They say, oh, go build temples. Save others. No. Chan school is we perfected Samadhi paramita. And in order to do that, you also need to perfect the other paramitas. Make sense? They're all interconnected. That's why you can't say that I object to, I'm sorry, I'm going to offend some people tonight, but what else is new? I open my mouth, I sound like an idiot, and I offend people left and right, and people wonder, and I wonder myself, why is it no one likes me? Except for my devoted disciples. Huh? Thank you. Please, don't spoil me. But how can anyone says, I only practice Pure Land. I only practice Chan. I only practice. I was at a precept school and they said, we study precepts all day and all night, but you know what? We all tell each other, in order to study precepts, you need to meditate. Yeah? Precepts is the second paramita. But they cannot accomplish the second paramita unless they perfect the fifth paramita. And they tell each other that. I say, I chuckle and say, but you guys don't know how to meditate. So how the heck are you going to perfect your precept paramita by studying precepts? Yes, paleface.
Thank you, Master. Follow-up question from YouTube, Ray Huang. So what are the other paramitas?
The 6 paramitas are, okay, very important for you to memorize this. This is as important as arithmetic. Okay? This is fundamental knowledge that you need to carry with you lifetime after lifetime. The 6 paramitas. I don't care if you are secret school. I don't care if you are Hinayana. Okay? You better memorize these things because one day you have no choice but practice these 6 paramitas in order for you to become enlightened, become a Buddha. Furthermore, if you're of the Hinayana persuasion, your practice is based on 6 paramitas, okay? And if you follow the training of the 6 paramitas in Mahayana, you get to your 4th stage a lot faster. I'd say 100 times faster, if you ask me. Okay? We are that powerful. Okay? So those 6 paramitas, you need to memorize them. Number 1 is giving. It's in order. The Chinese don't stress this. This is why I find that the Chinese, they throw the dictionary at you and say, it's like Master YongHua. He says, this is Mahayana knowledge. I know half of it. He said so. He said, the Buddha knows 100%, I know half of it. I said, that's incredible. Half of a Buddha Dharma is like an endless SSD drive. Only half of Mahayana is like endless already. His wisdom is incredible, Andres. It's fascinating. He said, I know half of it. Okay? And so he threw things at us and we tried to catch, I don't get it. Could you slow down a little bit? And what happened is that he taught the 6 paramitas and the 10 paramitas, but he doesn't stress. Like here, he says, can I go back a little bit? If you study the patience paramita, what is it? Patience, okay? And then you have to go through the 5 remaining paramitas. I'm teaching you slightly different. This is Chinese, okay? Because it's confusing enough for you already. I'm telling you, in order to practice the paramitas, you have to go giving, 1. Number 2, precepts. Number 3, patience. Number 4, vigor. Number 5, samadhi. Number 6, prajna wisdom. What happened is the Hinayana is that, like the Americans, they go to the studio and say, I meditate. So to the Chinese people, they go to the temple and say, I meditate, teaching meditation. That's 5th paramita, right? And they practice meditation year after year after year, and they're not getting anywhere. They practice Hua Tou, they practice One Yidama Door, they practice 42 hands and eyes, they practice Tibetan mantras, they practice signing Buddha's name. They say, I'm going to enter this reciting Buddha's name samadhi. Got that? So that I can go to the Pure Land on my own efforts. And they practice year after year after year, decades after decade, and they're getting nowhere. Because they don't have the foundation to get to the 5th samadhi. In order to get there, you need to start first with giving. And then you need to do morality. Then you need to do patience. Then you need to do vigor. You need to do, then you can get to samadhi. Unless you have the foundation, how are you going to get to 5? You don't go from 1. You say, you jump into 5 immediately? That's why they all struggle. And number 6, wisdom paramita. Not just any wisdom, but prajna wisdom. The wisdom of enlightened people. Memorize it. Because that's what we do. I'm teaching you, for example, Chan, which is the 5th paramita, or the samadhi paramita. However, the reason that many of you made it so fast, so far, is because you don't realize it. I've been also helping you practice the other paramitas as well. That's why you're progressing so fast. That's the only way. People don't realize that if they enter the 4th stage Arhat, samadhi level, it's because their vigor level is good enough, and that their patience level is good enough, and it's their morality level is good enough, and their blessings that comes from giving is good enough for 4th stage Arhat. Yes, Andres.
Yeah, you really have taught us all those paramitas, and everything you taught us, or the 6 paramitas, everything you taught us it seems like it's all based around the 6 paramitas. Thank you.
I'm so glad you occasionally come by and reinforce my teaching. Okay, Vietnamese people in Go Forest. Huh? What about the 6th paramita, prajna paramita? Oh, you Chinese people in San Jose, you drop by a temple, you meditate for an hour and say, okay, thank you, I feel so good. Thank you so much. I see you next week. And you go have some Korean barbecue with soju. Don't forget, Korean barbecue must be accompanied by soju. Right, soju? Okay. If you do that, then you're missing out on the prajna or the wisdom paramita practice. What is that in our temples? Now. is your prajna paramita practice. Listening to sutras, listening to Dharma talks is to practice the wisdom paramita. So if you skip, for example, like most temples, they make you sit for an hour, and then like I was at Berkeley Monastery, and they have there a very nice practice at 5 in the morning. They open the doors for an hour. Because I was a novice then, I hated it. Okay, I hated when I practiced my Dharma door, and I have to go to work. Can I just practice chant, become enlightened? You know, that's why I'm there. Anyway, I was always bitching and moaning. Excuse me. Were there children there? Okay, yeah, sorry. So at 5 in the morning, they open the doors and for people to go there and sit for an hour. They would sit from 5 to 6 in the morning, and then they stand up. Okay, so at 5, I hit the woodfish, pok, 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 meaning work hard. That's the 3 hits. And after we hit the bell, I mean, hey, wake up, exit samadhi, it's time. That's it, the handbell, that's what it means. Okay, get out of samadhi. We are conditioning you to recognize all these things, okay? Get out of samadhi, and then pok, meaning stand up, pok. Are you stable now? Because when I hit a pok, I don't see people standing up, so that's why I don't care anymore. But the first pok meaning stand up. And then the proctor has to wait and make sure the people are stable, because that's what happens. Some of the Vietnamese, they get up and they started walking right away. And they stumble and hurt themselves. I saw that in Konk. A Korean lady got up and said, I gotta go. And she stood up after sitting for half an hour. Her legs are still frozen. So she almost fell. Okay? So, pok, she stand up. And when we see the practice sees that you're all stable on your feet, okay, then second pok is you can walk. It's very thoughtful, the Chinese teaching. The techniques is very thoughtful. But, you know, it is in America. No one cares anymore. Okay. Yes, 8.
Thank you, Master. The 6 paramitas, to achieve the 6 paramitas, then we could reach 4th stage Arhat?
Let me finish, okay?
Okay, thank you.
So the Vietnamese and the Chinese in San Jose, because now the Chinese temples in San Jose and the Vietnamese temple in San Jose, they're so stressed out up there. They work 6 days a week typically, working startups and high-tech companies and financing startup and so forth, and structural engineering stuff. Okay, they're so stressed out. So they said, let me go meditate for an hour so that I can recover. That's great. And then after an hour, they have to hurry back to home, you know, and go eat or get some rest or something. So no one listens, no one practices the prajna paramita anymore. So that kind of meditation training is skewed. It's not complete meditation training. Because once you get to a samadhi level, the samadhi paramita level, let's say you are a 1st stage arhat, like I told you, okay? Then when I talk Dharma to you, you'll be able to understand the prajna paramita associated with your level. You understand that? That's how it works. So that's why you are 3rd dhyana right now. Okay? When you listen to Dharma right now, whatever I speak, you will be able to understand at the level of the 3rd dhyana. So you are practicing the prajna paramita while listening to the Dharma. And that gives you the foundation for you to build up a little bit higher. Whereas the Vietnamese, Chinese, they may get to a let's say like Wei Jue, that guy who in Taiwan, Taiwanese master in Taiwan has a lot of temples in San Jose as well. Okay, he's a first stage arhat. Okay, so his training is not complete. That's why he got the first stage arhat, but his wisdom level is not there. So that when he speaks Dharma, he speaks nonsense. It's all designed to impress people and BS people. Okay, that's not clean Dharma. Okay, but look at even that foundation, the foundation of prajna wisdom. Let's say you have the prajna first stage arhat, like he should have. Okay. You develop that wisdom so that you speak Dharma accordingly. Your teacher should watch over the development of that, in my standards. Okay. But what you don't realize is that this first stage arhat level is solid as long as your precepts is solid. So if the precept level is wobbly here, you cannot go up anymore. You see the difficulty of these people? That's why he's stuck. He's got the first stage arhat and he's okay, I can't go any further. Let's go and work. But the work is based on a wobbly foundation of precepts. Because of that, his disciples cannot get beyond first stage arhat. Because they picked up all the wrong foundations. You see, so all the 6 paramitas are critical. Whatever level you are, you need to strengthen the other paramitas so that next level, you're a lot more stable, you can go further. If you are skewed, you're strong in samadhi, but you're weak in wisdom, like the Vietnamese and the Chinese practitioners in San Jose nowadays. Okay? They cannot go very far in terms of developing their samadhi at all. Take, for example, right now in China, where they go and they practice, let's say, a Chanqi, and they practice vigorously, a lot more vigorous than we do, right? We just don't do much, do we? Right? I don't see anyone in the Buddha hall anymore. What are you doing again? This is a Chanqi, may I remind you? You wouldn't believe I have to beg people to come to Buddha hall to meditate during a Chanqi. Or actually, people have to beg me to come to Buddha hall. Yeah, hey, watch it. Master is exempt. What happened is that your development is skewed. That's why the foundation is not strong enough for you to go very far. At every single level, you need to make sure you strengthen your foundation. What we do for you, you strengthen your foundation so that you go to the next level and you go a little bit further. So those people who quit, for example, prematurely, okay, at least they still continue. They will not slide. Because if you don't have the proper foundation, okay, you will regress very easily. Whereas you have the proper foundation, you can be on your own for a long, long time. So that's why I noticed in my master's teaching is that he taught the 6 paramitas, but he failed to stress the importance of developing them equally, in my humble opinion. That's why you're a lot stronger, that's why you're a lot faster, and that's why you go, and that's why you are a lot higher. Because our approach is much stronger. Yes, one.
Thank you, Master. So is the order of achieving
this six paramita, is it important?
Yes, that's why I taught you. You have to remember the order. 1, giving. Without blessings, forget it. You're not going to make it. Okay? That's why where the Western education, training of meditation is deplorable, because what happened is that they, for example, they charge you $150 to go to attend a Chanchi event, which covers your room and board and your and whatever time you spend there. Okay, hotel and lodging and food and whatever, what you do. Well, I haven't been to one yet. I couldn't afford those prices. And when you do that, people think like, hey, I paid for this. Therefore, what are you doing for me? The giving paramita is exactly the opposite mindset. I'm not asking for anything. You have to want to give. And if you give without being asked, that's when your blessings are far greater than me asking you to pay $40 per day at my temple. Is it clear? It's designed for you to increase your blessings, not for me to pay my bills. I can't pay my bills, tough luck. I afford the temple. It's not my fault, okay? I'm not in a business making money. So that's a fallacy of the Western style of training, where you pay for a thing and now you're entitled to learn, and now we're supposed to deliver for you. Okay? And because of that, your results are limited. Your mind is limited. I said, $150 a day, that's reasonable. It's not like Disneyland hotel. But, it's a good vacation. I feel healthy. I recharge my energy, and I get away from my wife for a change, and and so forth. But it does not give you a chance to practice your giving paramita. Do you see that? Whereas, you come here. You come to a traditional, you go back into China a long, long time ago. You go to a thing and you practice because you're able to practice because your teacher, gave you all those things for free. Okay, so that you don't worry about it, you practice. Okay, but because of the system, okay, the Chinese felt like, oh wow. I feel so grateful. I remember this guy here who went to CityTV, who says, he said, wow, I've been here for a month. And for them to ask me for $40 a day for the room and for the food, 3 meals a day, and all this entertainment, it's cool. I think it's not enough. Let me pay another $1,000. And that person later became enlightened because he brought forth the mind of giving without being asked. That's when your blessings really multiply. That's what I learned from that story. But he didn't get very high anyway. Because the $40, you understand? He says, if I have $40, I give another $1,000, I'm being generous. I say what? Your health is worth only $1,000? Or $40 a day? Okay, so you see, I have a problem with the system of how you pay in the Western. And I understand in Korea, everything's so expensive in Korea, and the food is so expensive. And the property is so expensive and so forth. Rent is so expensive. So I understand that. That's why That's why it seems reasonable for them to charge money for lunch, for a meal. But then it causes a problem. It says, if a person goes to the temple to practice meditation, and after they sit for an hour, listen to Dharma for some time, they stood up, now it's lunchtime, and they said, if I have to pay money for lunch here, I might as well go next door to the restaurant. I pay the same thing, and it tastes better. And plus, I have soju as an option. Here, they don't serve alcohol. You see that? So it causes problems. So that's why usually the Koreans, they don't eat lunch at our temples. And then when they found out that we don't charge for lunch, they said, what are they up to? Is this a trick? But on the other hand, think about it. Think about what I find is so cute is that the people who've been through the training and said, wow, I got so much out of it. Now I want to help the temple train these people to get as much as I got, and even more than I got. So they are the ones actually supporting the temple without being asked. Because they do that, they go higher. You see that? So the system feeds on itself. That's what the Chinese used to do. And it's in the spirit, Xian Wen Sunim, of helping you open your heart. It's not about money. It's not about fame. It's not about temple size. Okay? How big is your heart? Because after you suffer all this training, the pain in your legs, the hunger in your stomach, and tiredness you have, you look at others and say, wow, now I know how tough it is for these people. Your heart of compassion grows. Because you see, like the bodhisattvas, unless you endure the suffering, you don't know. You cannot understand what others have to go through. So don't be afraid to endure more suffering, because it helps make your heart grow bigger. Okay? Those are the 5 paramitas. Again, if you are not patient, are we here? Have we caught up the audio yet? Or we have at 74, right? Okay. So you see, this is where Master Hsien didn't go into the basis of this. So he only said, you need to be aware of the 5 paramitas. But let me tell you, his system is also based on the 6 paramitas. Okay? It's just we, being Americanized, we make it more explicit for you. Okay? Understand Vietnamese people in San Jose, Chinese people in San Jose, LA people, we may be poorer than you, but we have much better foundation on 6 paramitas. At least a handful of us. Okay. Time is almost up. Because I was asked, before we got started, we got some little bit trouble, some kind of crazy guy in front, up Way Mountain Temple, tries to get in. So we are not ready for audio video. So I was asked, can you skip the slides tonight? And I said, last minute? But we can skip the slides tonight, is the answer, yes. Any other questions? Yes, Andres.
Yeah, is Christmas coming up, and they say Christmas is the time for giving. And when you're a kid, you always think about, I want to get presents. But then when you get older, I found it's more fun to give people the presents, because when you give someone the present and you see how happy it makes them, that's the best part of Christmas.
Yes, absolutely. I agree. When we first start, receiving is more fun. Okay? Getting a gift is fun, especially when it's free. But as you practice, your heart will open and you find out that giving is another side of life that can bring you joy that is different from receiving. And it's only through giving that your heart can grow and your joy can grow. For example, when you receive something, you receive a red car, okay? The joy only comes from your using the red car, okay? It only comes from you, yourself. But when you give to many people, your joy comes from the joy from all those people. So that's why the bodhisattvas, they give, and that increases their joy. They suffer to give, but then the result is that it increases the amount of joy in the day for them. Yes.
I definitely feel like giving, it's a sign of you feeling like rich, right? You feel like powerful within yourself, and you're right if you give, because if you don't give and you're stingy, you feel like you're missing something. There's like a hole inside of you. But when you give and you give freely, it's like you feel complete and whole within yourself. And it feels a lot. I like giving more and more, especially as I've been coming here. I learn more and more how important it is.
But can I ask you a question? But don't you feel like, how do you feel when you give to someone who is totally ungrateful, who don't even appreciate it, who's just who's there just to try to take advantage of you?
Well, it's just my karma.
Your karma?
Yeah, I know. I mean, I've done that before,
You've done it before? I mean, you were ungrateful before?
Yeah, all the time. Like to my mom when I was young, and
It's no longer the case?
I'm sure, yeah, it is still the case, but it's less and less, as I become more aware of this. I get better and better.
What did you hear? You see, it's a trick question. What do you hear? That this guy has not perfected the giving paramita yet. It still bothers him. He says, oh, these people are so ungrateful. The giving paramita is that when you give, you just give. Whether they're grateful or not doesn't matter. Got it?
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, of course I haven't perfected it.
Well, I'm glad you learned something new tonight. Yes, Peter.
Thank you, Master. On the other hand, I may be hearing the patience paramita. I'm hearing Andre's patience with his own improvement.
Yes, you improve all 6, by the way. You don't just increase your samadhi by itself per se. But if you keep on coming in the temple, you naturally will bring up your other 5 paramitas. This is why it's so important for you to listen to the Dharma, okay, and try to come to the temple if you can, Okay, just make it a habit. Don't think about it. Because when you come to the temple, wherever you are, you actually are solidifying your base, all 6 paramitas, so that it's easy for you to go to the next level. Or sometimes you go like this, and then boom, you go up. So it's many, many trajectories. So nothing is cast in stone. But the point here is wherever you are, we always solidify it. That's your foundation. Yes, Peter.
Thank you, Master. YouTube question from Forced Utuification. Alex asks, Great Master YongHua, why is it called ending birth and death? What can we learn from contemplating the phrase ending birth and death?
Ending birth and death means that you have control over your life. Meaning that you can die when you choose to die. And you can choose to be born to a good place of your choice to a certain extent, okay, depending on your level. So ending birth and death is desirable because it puts an end to all your suffering. You will suffer no more, and your life is blissful. That's why it's highly desirable. Okay, and you don't have to call me Great Master YongHua, because when you call that, my skin crawls. So, God, sounds disgusting. But thank you for the flattery. Anyone else? Okay, shall we go a little bit more, because we took the time to get the audio ready anyway, huh? Shall we? Huh? Learn some real words of wisdom from Master YongHua.
你要能忍辱了，其他的这5度啊，也就都有办法去修行。
If you are able to be patient, you will be able to find a way to cultivate the remaining 5 paramitas.
You understand? You know what he says here? It sounds like a casual thing, but what he's saying is that all 6 paramitas are important. I just spell it out for you. That's all. Okay. Furthermore, I'm also saying a little bit more for you, in that what he's not saying is that you need to go to the temple, come to the temple, because when you come to the temple, you actually are practicing 6 paramitas. Imperceptibly, you are strengthening all 6 paramitas every time you come to the temple. And that's the difference between temples. The better temples will help you strengthen all 5 very solidly. The lesser temples would at least help you do the Samadhi paramita or giving paramita, like a church or something, Daniel's church. They practice the giving paramita, right? Or the Buddhist churches nowadays, they also practice charity work now, right? They build bridges, they build hospitals, and they have old age retirement homes. I've been to Korea with a successful Sunim there, who has a chain of retirement homes. Okay, they're practicing the giving paramita. That's their strength. So whatever he taught, whatever he taught, and they're very vigorous. The Koreans, very impressive. They practice vigorously. They love to cultivate. It's their culture. But their practice, naturally we strengthen that. But their focus is more on the giving paramita. Because it's the same thing. For example, a lot of monks, for example, Master Xu Yun Master Xu Yun, he spent his career building temples. He fixed temples in China, throughout China. You know that? He's tremendous. Many monks and nuns owe him because his temple is nothing, but he spent time going over, raise money, raise funds, and spend time to fix temples and move on, fix the next one, fix the next one, fix the next one. That's giving paramita. Yes? Huh? And you do that because Master YongHua, in contrast, he doesn't build temples. Notice that? All his temples are ugly and cheap. Why not? Yes.
Thank you, Master. Have you seen the Netflix documentary about the villages in Florida?
No. Sorry, I've been busy this Chanchi.
It's a fascinating documentary about a sprawling retirement community that continues to grow. Mm-hmm. I'm not in line with the culture there, but as a business model, if there was ever the opportunity to support a sprawling Buddhist retirement community, I would be very much in support of that.
Yes, absolutely. My point here is that Master YongHua didn't have time to build temples. He only has time to save people's lives so that they develop faith in his Dharma. He has only time to explain sutras. You know how exhausting it is to explain a sutra. And then he has time to help and support and train his students. So so you see, he has no time for that. Okay, and his students were not good enough, not at the point where they can help build temples on his behalf. See that? But he did what's the most important aspect of his work is not temples. It's not building temples. It's laying that foundation, of the 6 paramitas. He couldn't afford to specialize on one, giving. You see that? It's too bad, and it makes me sad because I wished that his disciples, he were forthright and say, son, I'm busy. Hey, daughter, I'm busy. Why don't you go build a temple? We have money. But the problem is what? They build temple for what? They can't teach. Temples are not built just for you to go have your photo taken. To me, temples are built because that's why people go and cultivate. So I'm very proud. We have right now, we don't have temples, and thank you, Lord, for that. But we have the internet. So now, what do we have? Our students, we have morning mantra, a Monday mantra session, I'm told, where people recite the Great Compassion mantra, and it helps people who are depressed a lot. Huh? Only depressed people attend those classes. And then Tuesday, Chinese class, yes? And then Wednesday, what do we have? Korean class from Korea, huh? And then Thursday morning is mantra session again, but it's a Shranga mantras now, okay? And Friday morning we take a break. God also take a break, so why shouldn't we? Saturday morning, we have, we have classes. Why? Because you are good enough to do it. I'm proud of that. Okay? We may be poor, but we're proud like hell. 3.
I think I heard Venpo Shenliao is holding meditation classes on Friday also.
Friday evening, not morning. Friday morning, we all take a break. It's our Sundays. The Catholic Sundays are Friday mornings. But I would not be against if more people, offering more classes on Fridays. Okay? But the point is that temples are there for you to come and practice. It's not there for just to build it and then it's empty. So our focus, at least my personal focus, is to train you so that you become teachers. And your own blessing will bring you your own temples. I have no blessings. I have no temples. Forgive you. I support your training. That's all I can afford. Yes?
Thank you, Master. YouTube question from Ninja Checkmate. Excellent YouTube handle.
Yeah, great user handle.
Master, I have seen other disciples and myself emit light countless times within the past year, but not often from other people. Is this some opening of the spiritual eye? From Malcolm.
Yes. Don't get excited. It ain't nothing yet. You ain't seen nothing yet. Okay? Anyone else? Yes, Andres.
They say giving the Dharma is the best form of giving, right? So Master YongHua did a lot to give the Dharma. He translated the sutras to English, and he lectured on the whole Avatamsaka and the Shurangama and a ton of other sutras. So couldn't you say he pretty much perfected giving in a way?
Yes. He perfected all 6 paramitas. All 10. Not just 6. He perfected all 10. Yes.
Thank you, Master. What are the other 4 paramitas?
Okay. 7th paramita. The 7th paramita is expedience. You cannot teach people unless you use expedience. Number 8, vows. Number 9 is power. And number 10 is knowledge or wisdom. Okay. If you will, the difference in wisdom between 6 and 10 or 9, whatever, is that 6 is the wisdom of Prajna wisdom, ending birth and death. The other wisdom, the ultimate wisdom, is the all-knowing wisdom, where you can help end others' birth and death. To me. The Chinese explain it differently. Because what's the point in ending your own birth and death? You have to have the wisdom to help others end their own birth and death. And that's why the only way for you to develop that is through Mahayana training. And so if for your reference, Master Xu Jun, Master Xuan's predecessor, for example, was able to teach his disciples up to 8. Master YongHua is able to, his teaching, Master Xuan's teaching goes up to 10. You look at his teaching, it's all 10. Master Xu Yun teaching, you look at his teaching, it's up to 8. He doesn't understand the other part, the other two final parameters. Yes, Q&A.
A Di Đà Phật. Dạ thưa thầy, con có câu hỏi nó thực tế trong gia đình. Nói về phương tiện thì nếu mà trong một gia đình mình không có phiền não, nhưng mà để giúp cho một người con hay là một người thân trong gia đình chừa bỏ cái tật xấu đó, thì mình phải giả làm là mình giận, mình hờn, mình ghét. Thì cái phương tiện như vậy có thích hợp hay không? A Di Đà Phật.
Emitofuo, Master, I have a question realistically in family about skill and mean, experience. If in the family there's no affliction, however, in order to help a son or a relative in family get rid of the bad habit, we have to fake ourselves to become sometimes angry, hate that or ignore that person. Is that appropriate?
Yes, for you personally, it's better. But it's not quite there yet. But it's still far better than a typical person. From a purist perspective in Mahayana, you cannot practice. You really are not good enough to practice those expedients yet. The expedients, even for enlightened people, like the enlightened Korean Sunims I met in Korea, they don't know how to do expedients yet. That's why Korean Buddhism has a hard time. Excuse me, I don't mean to criticize them, but the fact is that the Korean Buddhism has a hard time adapting to the new era, where the young people have different needs, have different expectations, and therefore the old way of Korean Buddhism or Chinese Buddhism is not suitable for them. That's why the Koreans are losing Buddhist disciples as well. The Chinese are losing Buddhist disciples because the teachers don't understand how to do expedients yet, to adapt to the new generation, the different conditions. That's why unless they change, once the old Buddhist disciples die, there's no more Buddhism in those countries, except for a deviant form of Buddhism. Yes?
YouTube question from Chin Kao. I hope I said it right. Sorry. I guess I didn't. Okay, I didn't. Does this mean that Master YongHua is 10th ground because he perfected 10 paramitas?
At least. But don't take my word for it. Why don't you get the 10th ground yourself and you see for yourself? Okay? I just speak. I'm just a big mouth. Okay? It's all designed to tell you, really? I don't believe you. I want to get that just to check. And then when I check, I come back and say, hey guys, that YongHua is a really a big liar. And he's probably, because I'm a big liar, I'm rotting in the house. Yes.
Next YouTube question from Cordelia Lee. Master, my son and I go to the temple as part of our weekend activity. We hang out and go home. Is this okay? Or are we using up our blessings because we hang out and not helping out? Emitofuo.
As long as you go to the temple, for you personally, when you go to the temple, you're practicing all 6 paramitas. So is your son. I don't know about the other temples, our temples, okay? I make sure that your abbot is good enough so that you go to the temples, they're helping you practice the 6 paramitas, while they're perfecting their own 6 paramitas or more. Any other questions? God, you guys are asking tougher and tougher questions. I'm running out of things to tell you, really. When I run out of things, it's time to retire. You know you no longer need it. But the questions get harder and harder, and that means that the more things I say that are wrong, okay, I'll be rotting in the house for a long, long time after I'm done here. I look forward to it. Something to look forward to. If I lie, then I will be rotting in the house. What for? For your adoration. Okay, few more minutes? Yes, Andres? No, okay, go, continue. There's a little lady here, the baby here, that we want to make it a bit longer for her.
你要不能忍辱啊，你就怎么样修行也不会相应的。
If you can't be patient, then no matter how you cultivate, you will have no responses.
Again, the Chinese, that's how they talk. They talk about responses. That's important to the Chinese Buddhist culture, it seems to me. Master YongHua really talked a lot about responses from cultivation, gan yin, and you know, from praying to Wan Yin Bodhisattva, from praying to the Buddha, from bowing and so forth. And I had my share of people practice his Dharma, telling me their responses, their miracles, if you will. Okay, and I don't want you to be like that. Okay, I want you to be better. There's no need to be greedy. Okay, when you talk about responses, again, I cultivate. How come I have no responses? Then you fall into the Chinese trap. Okay, we practice because the responses are not that important to us. And that's how you get more responses than the Chinese. The Chinese, when they talk about responses, when they say, oh, I have the response, Master, I have a response, so wonderful. I saw Wan Yin Bodhisattva flying a Lu Mountain Temple Buddha Hall. I said, wow, how come I never saw her? I'm glad you have response. I have 0 response at all. And she's so beautiful, flowing there. Huh? They have responses. My disciples have responses left and right. Okay, they see Amitabha Buddha, they see Wan Yin Bodhisattva. Anyone saw Great Strength Bodhisattva? No? Manjushri? Master YongHua? Huh? Yeah. and so forth. Okay, you guys have responsibility. I never saw any. I never saw Master YongHua. Never saw Wan Yin. See, yeah. They say, he has a big mouth. Let's not encourage him. Because then, if they show up and say, yesterday I saw Wan Yin Bodhisattva. So I give a bigger head. So, you see, if responses turn you on, then you have fewer responses. You become attached to responses. And this is a fallacy, and this is a danger of teaching, the Chinese are teaching. They are talking about responses too much. The Chinese Dharma masters kind of brag about responses. And in your practice, responses or no responses, it's not why we're practicing. Okay? Too Chinese for me. I'm sorry, Master, I disagree with you. 5 more minutes.
是看在家人，在这个家里边呢，不要发脾气。
All lay people within the home, do not lose your temper.
Yeah, please don't lose your temper at home. Don't do that. And that's what I'm afraid of with all of you. You go, you practice, you meditate, and you go home, and your husband, pisses you off. You blew up at him, and that's it. All your practice goes out the window. First of all, you lose your temper. All your merits and virtues are burned like that. In a flash, your accomplishment after 2, 3 hours, 10 hours of practice, gone. Number 2, you're hurting the people you're angry at. Okay, it's no good for them. You're hurting them physically, you're hurting them emotionally, you're hurting them intellectually, you're hurting them spiritually. It's very damaging. Because you're stronger than your family members. You should know your strength. You should not lose your temper. Okay? And Q&A.
A Di Đà Phật, dạ thưa thầy, cái sự nổi nóng và cái bệnh hưng cảm có tương quan, có liên quan nhiều nhau hay không ạ?
Emitofuo Master, losing the temper and bipolar problem, are they related to each other?
Yes, it's a personal thing for me as well. When I first got started, I started teaching, my students used to be very scared of me. Every now and then, my temper would flare up. I would crush them. I would punish them. So, yes, that's why I apologize to all those early disciples who left, because they couldn't take Master's temper. So, I apologize to all of you. I'm manic, and I never learned how to handle a manic side until recently. Recently, I still flare up, but my temper still flares up, but it's not as often as before. Absolutely. That's the nature of manic people. They get upset. They will blow the top at you. And you have to remember that it's not them. It's a manic ghost pulling the strings. And all you have to do is not do anything. Okay, that's how you help them. Because if you do anything, you object, you challenge them, you retaliate, you argue, it only adds fuel to the fire, will increase the anger, will make the temper worse. And that's a very important thing. But it's easier said than done. And when people yell at you, how can you remain calm? Of course. So this is why you meditate. You meditate because you can take it. When you're stronger, rule of thumb, when you're stronger, you're supposed to take it. And not retaliate. Okay? So for example, if I say things are disrespectful to the other Sunims, first of all, I apologize. If I criticize and call an abbot an idiot, I apologize. Okay? If I offended a lot of Chinese masters, I apologize. Okay? If I offended a Vietnamese master, please, I apologize. American masters, I apologize. Hinayana masters, I apologize. Theravada master, I apologize. Okay? I'm not worth blowing your top at. I'm a nobody. Okay? And however you look at it, from your perspective, am I really a nobody? Is it worth losing your temper, criticizing or retaliating or writing up a thing, see, he said that about that, he said that about that, he said that, and give it to the whole world. Look, YongHua is such a bad monk, he did that, he got thrown out, and he broke precepts, he yelled at his disciples, he's poor, but I think he's up to something, no one does nothing for free, and so forth, and you have the whole dossier on me, okay? Yeah. That's my biography. Thank you. Q&A.
Thank you, Sifu. I just want to share some comment for manic people because I do deal that with my family at home. Like this morning, there's always a trigger in the morning for my daughter to get to that level, and normally it's feel to me like it's a hangry side of her. When she woke up, she get hungry, and then she will pick something from yesterday. Her brother or someone say something that make her upset, and then she start to rambling about for hours and hours. And normally, Daddy will respond to her. But the more my husband responds, the more she's fired up, and I don't intervene right away because I know if I start intervening, this thing gonna escalate. So I just stay quiet, and then later at night before dinner, then I talk to my husband, and we remind each other that it's not our daughter. It's like the voice that we hear is different when she's manic, and when she's not, that person is not in there, she's more calm. Mm-hmm. So we're learning how to deal with it, and she's doing better, a little bit better every day. Thank you, Master.
Thank you for telling us. That's what you have to do. You have to endure it. And that's how you solve the problem. Honestly, it's your karmic retribution. If she yells at you, it's because you owe the ghost. I'm sorry, I should add insult to injury. If someone is manic and yells at you, it's because chances are that very likely that you owe the ghost. That's why he comes to your family and yells at you. Okay? That's the way it is. And so yelling back, retaliating, getting angry is not going to help. And this is why it makes you superior, is that because just take it. Accept it. Okay? because when you practice Chan meditation, you practice endurance, okay? You practice patience, you practice vigor and all those things. And here at our temples, it makes you stronger, not for you to take it out on others, to impose your will on others. If a ghost comes at you and yells at you and wants to afflict you, you take it and you say, I'm not going to get afflicted. I can take this because what you're doing is really not affecting me at all. That's how you solve the debt. You pay off the debts by not engaging. It's just taking it. Take the example, just to give an example for men, like, and then, I used the early days. I took Xian Shun here, who was a lay person, to San Jose, because a person in San Jose invited me to go there to teach meditation. This is a long time ago, and Tian Feng was there. Okay. And we go there, we drive on Saturday morning, Friday night, till midnight, we got started. We drove from Long Beach to the LAX, got a rental car because our van is too old, didn't dare drive long distance, and then drive to San Jose. And by the time we got there, it's about 7 or 8 o'clock in the morning. So we'd stop somewhere and have, a coffee or sit in the parking lot and meditate a little bit. Then at 9 o'clock, we go to a place and teach meditation. And after that, okay, people would offer to us lunch or go back to the houses for lunch. No, we don't go to lay people's house. We're pure monks. Come on. What do you think we are? So, I have a huge temper back then. So I'd go to a vegetarian restaurant. And 11 o'clock, because after the Chan class, we have to wait until 1 p.m. for the sutra lecture, okay? And so we go to lunch at around 11:15, we got to the restaurant, and there's a restaurant there, 11 San Jose people, they don't eat lunch. Normal people eat lunch at 12, right? We eat lunch way too early. And that restaurant is open at 11. So we got in there, and there's the whole restaurant is empty except for a monk, Vietnamese monk, with 4 his followers sitting in the middle of the restaurant. And the guy is a third dhyana. I got in there, and he's sitting there like a king, surrounded by his subjects. And he's talking, hey, and everyone, all his disciples was admiring him, okay? He said, wow, Master, your Dharma is so wonderful, and so forth. So we sat down, okay, and he's right in the middle, so you have to notice him. And he's the king of the restaurant. So he sat down, and he's imposing his will, using samadhi level. He said, hey, respect me, like me, be afraid of me. Okay, so I sat down. Now, of course, he's trying to terrorize me as well. Respect me. Be scared of me. And it's like, and then he noticed that we, affected at all. It's like he bounces it back. It's no response whatsoever. Because when you do that, when you're stronger, people, yes, they are afraid inside, and it shows in their behavior, in their eyes. But he glanced over to us in the temple. No one's affected. Xian Shun back then was a 4th-stage arhat. Was it 4th? No, you're not. Back then, you were 5th samadhi, I remember. You're a lay person, okay? And she barely got to the temple for 2 or 3 months. And from 0, she got to within a few months, she got the 5th samadhi because she sat in the back of the rental car for 3 hours and her legs were frozen solid. She's crazy. She's the only one, the first one who's that crazy. All my disciples, it's too painful. Xian Shun said, okay, I'm not unbuckle. And she got the 5th samadhi, okay? So so I look at my disciples, I say, everyone's higher than this guy. Okay? So I'm not worried, except for one lay person who's second dhyana, and the guy is third dhyana. So I say, okay, I protect you. So everyone is not affected by him. The whole table, there are like 5, 6 of us. Roberta was there, and Roberta, of course, is higher already. So the guy after a while got so upset, and I purposely placed Xian Shun's back, sitting closest to him with her back turned to him. And the guy took out all his might and beat up on her. And Xian Shun, why am I hurting? And I said, because he's beating on you. He said, what? Why aren't you doing anything? I said, because I want you to be beaten. I'm protecting everyone else except you. Because I want him to beat up on you. Something like that, right? I said, well, it's not fair. What do you do to me? What did I do to you? I said, oh, Xian Shun, you're so unfair. I said, because I want to make a point. It hurts a little bit, but you're not damaged, are you? Because you're stronger than him. You're 5th Samadhi, he's 3rd Dhyana. He can't possibly damage you. He can't possibly hurt you. Got the point, no? Your daughter that goes blowing yelling at you cannot damage you. Because we're stronger. That's why we're supposed to take it. And so what Xian Shun did is that she got afflicted. After I explained to her, she said, okay. And then she asked me, how come you're not doing anything? I said, well, it's like, the guy is like a kid, a 2-year-old kid, coming at you and trying to hit you. And you said, go ahead, kid, go for it. Let it out, release your anger on me. What's the big deal? You understand, no? We practice so that we're stronger, so that we can take others' temper and others' afflictions. They cannot harm us. That's why we can forgive them. That's what the way Nu is today, because her daughter yelling, the ghost yelling at her through her daughter, doesn't do anything for her. That's why Nu is not even afflicted. But it's a totally different story if, like, the ghost is stronger, and when the daughter yells at her, Nu, why are you at me? And that's a sign that you're not strong enough. That's all. Okay, and because Xian Shun dropped that, and she said, okay, then in that case, I should be happy. Because that she continued to progress. And if you're afraid of it, she were afraid of it, she said, okay, I'm not going with you anymore. Okay? Then, and the secret back then of those people who went with me for 2 or 3 months, every Saturday, Friday night until Saturday afternoon, we come back, okay? One day rental car, 24-hour cycle, $20 a day. Back then it's a lot cheaper. It's the cheapest car rental. Okay, advantage car rental. Forget that, okay? Edit advantage. And the funny thing is those people, they all, even Linda over there, got to 2nd stage art within 3 months, hanging out with us, going to San Jose. Meaning that they were and learned a lot of stress. You don't improve that quickly unless you're under a lot of duress. Oh yeah. It's not, there's a reason why we're asking you to endure and be vigorous and do not be afraid to get tired. Do not be afraid. Okay? Because if you do that, you improve quicker. And sure enough, because that monk attacked Xian Shun, very quickly she improved, way out of his range. He said, no monk's can hurt me anymore. It's just gossiping, okay? Yeah. But I'm cautioning you. You do not want to piss Xian Shun off. When she's with me, she's under control. When she's not with me, okay, she would lash out at you, and it hurts like hell. Ask them. And recently, for example, just another piece of gossip, okay? Recently, when I was in Korea, Professor Jane made a mistake. So Xian Shun was so upset that she lashed out at Jane. Okay, and you know what? It had to hurt so much because Jane improved and made it to first stage art. You see? Sometimes you may want to have Xian Shun beat up on you. Is the moral of the story. Don't be afraid. Now you know why she's still around. We still let her teach you and lash out at you, because sometimes it helps. Got the point? You have to endure suffering. Don't be afraid. Endure more and more and more, because suffering will help you improve. Understand, Mandy? Cannot be afraid of suffering. The Chinese are weak because the monks and nuns are afraid to push you. Don't be afraid of suffering. All you have to do is do a little bit more. Fast another day. And don't quit before. Okay? All right. I gossip too much. Okay. We stop here tonight. Thank you all.